Hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead for Porch Time today. Here today we have a beautiful sunny day today. It's been some nice weather today. It's gonna be kind of hot. It's gonna be up in the mid 80s, but yesterday was a bad morning. Wanda and I spent an hour or two in the cellar. Got woke up early in the morning by severe weather and had to go to the cellar because we was under severe thunderstorm warnings with 60-mile-an-hour winds and stuff. And you know, where we live at here, this is a common thing this time of the year, and it doesn't matter how much we prepare for it. It always knocks our feet out from under us, and there's a lot of different reasons why. The weather is one thing that you just have no control over. And where we live at here is just so sandy that when we get these kind of rains, I mean, we got 3 inches total, but we got 2 inches of that in 1 hour. And when you get that kind of downpour and you have a garden, it just wreaks havoc, especially when it's sandy like we have, because we have just probably about 70 to 80% sand here. And when you have that and the rains come, it just washes gullies everywhere, and you got to go back and fix stuff. And if you got gardens, you know, it just washes everything. The plants fall over. I mean, it's a mess. And sometimes I ask myself the question, you know, why do I even do what I do here? Because it's an every year thing. It happens all the time. It may happen in the middle of summer. It may happen during hurricane season. Sometimes we'll get 12 and 15 inches of rain during hurricane season in a day, and it just wreaks havoc on everything that you've worked so hard for, and it gets discouraging. I'm not going to lie. You know, you'd have your garden. Wanda and I had our gardens this past week. They were so pretty, and everything was fresh plowed. Everything looked pristine. I mean, everything was just beautiful and immaculate. And then the rains come yesterday, and you know, you get up and you look at them now, and all the rows are washed down. There's gullies and everything, and some of the plants are washed over, and any of the seeds that you had planted probably packed into the ground that they're not going to come up, which means that, you know, we'll have to replant. And you know, it just seems like the older I get, the worse these things become. You know, when I was a child, it seemed like just got good rains. It didn't seem like, I mean, I remember bad weather when I was a kid, but it wasn't all the time. It's just like now when we have weather, we can't just have a rain anymore. It's always severe. When the lines of rain come through, they're bright red lines, and they've got the big, you know, I don't know how much y'all know about weather, but they have a term they use. It's called bow echoes, and you see these bow echoes coming, and you look and there's downbursts in them and stuff like that. It's like the weather's just out of control. You can't have just plain rains anymore. You know, I can remember when I was a young man, I did a lot of trapping, did a lot of hunting, and when the month of February would come around, it would always be cold, and it'd be light, drizzly rain for days on end, which would be perfect hunting and trapping weather. And you didn't ever have any severe weather during February, and it was hardly ever hot during February. You know, I mean, now when February comes around, we've got 80-degree weather, and we got these severe weather coming in, and we go from 80 degrees to 2 or 3 days of 15-degree weather. Yeah, that kind of stuff used to just didn't happen when I was a kid, or even when I was a young man. And so, you know, on a homestead, the weather wreaks havoc. And the closer toward what I believe to be the end of the age as we know it, these things are getting worse. And because of that, it makes gardening extremely difficult on a homestead. And, you know, it can get to be discouraging, like I said, because you put all your heart and effort into something, and just to have it all torn up and washed away. I mean, it's like Wanda and I, we plant tomato plants, and we put them out, and we were so meticulous about it and how we do it, and you know, we try to pick days when it's cloudy to put them in the ground so that the sun doesn't bear down on them too hot. And usually in March you have those times, but the last few years we put tomato plants out in March, and one day it's 45 degrees, the next day it's 95 degrees. I mean, and that's stressful on a plant. This year we're just fighting. I'm not going to lie about it. We're fighting this year just to get anything to come up and live. I've lost numerous tomato plants already. If it's not to the rain and to the hot sun, it's to mole crickets, or we tried piling leaves around our. We was trying to do a back to nature garden instead of a back to Eden, and we put a lot of leaves in the garden. And I raked the leaves back and planted my tomato plants, as I showed y'all in the video, with the post-hole diggers, and I put the leaves back. Went out a few days later, and a lot of my tomatoes was gone. Started raking the leaves back, and crickets was all up under those leaves and just chewing them off under the ground, just letting them fall off. So, you know, we may have to just forego the leaf thing, you know, and because it's not working. There's too many insects. When you don't use chemicals, the insects just, they love organic gardening. Let me put it that way. They love to have fresh, pristine ground and the good richness of the soil and stuff like that. Those animals, those creatures just love that. They get up under those leaves and hide up in there and everything. And I've got bluebird boxes all around my gardens, hoping that they will get a lot of the crickets. And they do. They get a lot of them. But Wanda and I lose a lot of our strawberries to these crickets and stuff like that. They go in there and they just eat holes in them. And, you know, sometimes you ask yourself the question, well, why do I keep doing this? You know, if it's so hard to do. And the bottom line is this: the food that we have in our country here, whether you want to believe it or not, is toxic. It is not really good for human consumption. And all of it's been irradiated, so when you go to the store and you get what you call fresh produce, it may be fresh, but it's had radiation ran through it. And when they do that, any living enzymes that's in it is dead. So it's basically, you might as well be eating cardboard because it has very little nutritional value to it. And that's why we keep doing it. The different chemicals that's used on the food, you know, and now we've come out, I mentioned in the video, we've got dicamba coming out, and that's going to be used. And I know I have a lot of people go, oh, I'm not worried too much about 2,4-D weed killer. It's not that bad. It's just a hormone. Well, it's an unnatural way of doing it, and it's extremely toxic. I've looked into it. You know, you're talking about renal failure, central nervous system disorders, all that kind of stuff from it. And I keep doing this every year, and I keep fighting and fighting, simply because in order to enjoy what health we have to do that. You know, because I just refuse to put as much toxic stuff into my system as I can. I have enough physical issues like it is without adding to the situation. And I just want to try to live as healthy as I can. I believe that the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, is what the Scripture says, and we're to treat it like that. We're not to put things into it that's harmful to it if we can help it. And we try to do it organically if we can, as much as possible. But when we do, you got to consider Wanda and I plant close to 3 acres. And in order for us to have the things that we have to supply our food supply for a year, it takes 3 acres. And if somebody, I know I'm going to get flack for this, but if somebody tells me that they can do it on less, I don't believe it. Because I have fought and fought and fought to try to raise our food on these 3 acres of garden space that we have. And Wanda and I barely make it every year on the amount of food we grow on that. Now, people who say they make it on less are going to the store and buying something. Because Wanda and I, the only things that we usually buy at the store, occasionally we'll splurge and buy a little extra or something, but our grocery bill for the month usually runs us about $150 a month. And that's no junk. Every now and then Wanda might get a little candy bar or a bag of chips or something like that. But predominantly what our money is spent on is things like coconut oil, some cleaning products, paper towels, maybe some toilet paper, things like that. Right now we was having to buy some meat because we can't supply all the meat that we need to have here. It's just not feasible for us right now. We don't have enough land fenced in for that. So, why do we keep doing what we keep doing, or the weather the way it is? That's the reason. Is because we try to take care of ourselves as best as we can. And as the weather gets more wicked and more wicked, and yes, I do believe man is tampering with the weather. I do believe that. Do I believe in global warming? No. I don't believe in global warming. I don't believe in carbon credits. I think that's all just a racket to make money. I've not found any evidence that points to any of it's actually true. But do I believe man is tampering with the atmosphere and possibly changing with some of the weather? Now, yes, I do believe that, because I've seen too much. I've got to a point where I can almost predict it now when something's going to happen. So, by studying the weather as much as I've been studying it, it's helped me to understand how to plant, how to do what I need to do here to be able to keep enough food going for Wanda and I to have enough food to survive on. Because last year we raised 450 pounds of Irish potatoes last year. Well, it really wasn't enough. Out of 450, we probably lost 100 to heat, and some of them just went bad. You have that kind of stuff. So that brought us down to, and then we've tried to plant some of them, so that brought us down to about 350 pounds of potatoes. And 350 pounds of Irish potatoes just didn't get it. So this year, we upped our field bigger than it was last year to try and get more potatoes, but this year we're having fits trying to get potatoes to even come up. We planted some, as you've seen in one of our videos, some of our own potatoes, and they came back. They don't even look like the other potatoes. And that's got me bothered, because it makes me wonder, what have they done to the potatoes now? It's not the Simplots. I know I've checked that, the GMO ones, but I've also gotten word this past week that there's actually several other potatoes out there that have been genetically modified that we just haven't been told about yet. So, is it possible that some of the potatoes that we planting are hybrids, or are they something else? I don't know. All I know is that my potatoes that are coming back from the ones I saved from last year is a completely different looking plant. So I think they've been tampered with, just to be honest. I've actually tried to call the potato company. I've not gotten any return phone calls from them. We've got a lot of sweet potatoes we're going to plant this year. We wanted to try to get somewhere between 300 and 400 slips set out in order to have enough to make it through the year. And we're up to, I think, 175 right now that we've raised. And we're going to be trying to, if we can't get enough on our own up, we will have to buy some slips to get them out. But right now, it looks like we might be able to get up enough slips to get them planted. Because we're up to 175, and they're still coming up pretty good. So we might meet our quota. And I want to try to put, I'm shooting for 400, because last year we didn't do quite 400, and I try to gauge my garden from year to year. And Wanda and I have probably, I'm going to say we probably have 10 to 15 pounds of sweet potatoes left in the cellar. And that will probably be gone in the next week or two. And then we'll be out of sweet potatoes. And we won't be harvesting any sweet potatoes until late August or early September. So we've got that space there that we're not going to have any of our homegrown sweet potatoes. And which means that if we have sweet potatoes, we won't have to go out and buy them. And that is something that I don't like doing, is buying produce. So we've got to up our game on the sweet potatoes. We are trying to set out more tomatoes this year. We didn't get enough tomatoes set out last year. This year we've set out Romas. We've set out the yellow pear tomatoes. We've set out Amish pastes. And we've set out Creoles. Now the weather, like I said, has been playing havoc. We planted probably close to 200 Amish paste seeds. And we've set out right now about 70, I think, close to 70 of them. And the rest of them just, that was the healthy ones out of the bunch. So, we planted probably 25 or 30 of the Creole tomatoes. We've planted, I think it was like 18 of the yellow pear tomatoes and 18 of the Romas. So we're going to try to get a lot of different varieties in to see which ones that we think we can. The Amish paste is our main one here. That's our main staple here, because it does fairly decent for us. We've been saving our seed for several years, and they come back and do real well usually without a lot of problems. But we don't know, because of the weather, what kind of insects we're going to be facing this year. We're already noticing stink bugs are really, really bad in our mulberry trees, in our huckleberry bushes and stuff like that. They're already in there trying to sting the fruits, which means that the cycle came earlier this year. It came like 2 weeks earlier this year than it came last year. So with that being the case, when the blueberries come on, will the stink bugs be attacking the blueberries like they did last year? I don't know. I'm hoping that this cycle will be over with by the time the blueberries come in, and the blueberries will be in and out before the next cycle of stink bugs actually comes in sometime in June. So, these are just some things I brought to y'all's attention because of the weather and how it affects everything that you do on a homestead. It is discouraging when you're fighting against Mother Nature. You saw in one of our videos last year, we planted our sweet corn. We had a wind burst come through and blew it every bit flat on the ground. We did not lose all of it, but we did not get the harvest that we needed. So this year we planted more in hopes that maybe we'll be able to salvage a little bit more of it this year. So we will see, depending on the weather. Everything depends on the weather. Once you let the seeds go out of your hand and it goes into the ground, it's up to Mother Nature and the good Lord after that. You have no control over what happens with it. So I'm going to probably end Porch Time there today. I'm going to show y'all a few pictures of what's happened on our homestead yesterday with the rain. I'm going to show you some of the gullies that got washed and how it washed some of our gardens, and let y'all see a little bit about what we have to deal with here, because we will probably, I don't know, probably be toward the end of the week before we'll plow, because not today, but tomorrow the rain's supposed to come back again, and then possibly we won't have any more till you get toward the end of the week. So it might be that by Thursday or Friday we might be able to plow enough to get in there and break the ground back up where it's packed it like concrete. So I'm going to let you look at these pictures, and I hope you enjoy them. And thank y'all for watching today on Porch Time.